The physics should have been impossible. Storms do not influence weather systems 500 miles away. On November 10th, atmospheric pressure sensors across Hong Kong began detecting anomalies that forced meteorologists to issue emergency alerts for Super Typhoon Feng Wong, a storm that was still demolishing the Philippines. Atmospheric physicists studying the data uncovered evidence of a phenomenon they are calling megastorm resonance, where typhoons become so massive they create standing waves in the atmosphere itself, broadcasting their presence across vast distances like underwater earthquakes generate tsunamis. This discovery demolishes our understanding of storm safety zones. If atmospheric waves can trigger emergency protocols 500 miles from their source, how far can these invisible threats travel? What happens when the next mega-typhoon generates resonance waves that reach major population centers? And if the physics of storm influence just expanded by 500 miles, which cities need to start preparing for typhoons that will never touch their coastlines? November 4th, 2025. 1,000 miles east of the Philippines, what began as an unremarkable tropical depression defied every atmospheric model in existence. Within 5 days, this meteorological anomaly would evolve into Super Typhoon Feng Wong. Not just another Pacific storm, but a monster so massive it would force scientists to rewrite the laws of atmospheric physics. The transformation was explosive. Fed by unprecedented sea surface temperatures of 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, Feng Wong underwent what meteorologists call rapid intensification, gaining 47 miles per hour in just 24 hours. But speed was not what made this storm unique, it was size. By November 8th, Feng Wong had ballooned to an incomprehensible 1,800 kilometers in diameter, a storm so vast it could blanket the entire South China Sea. To put this in perspective, Feng Wong was approaching what atmospheric scientists call planetary storm status. Weather systems so large they begin to interact with Earth's rotation itself. Traditional typhoon physics operates on simple principles. Storms create localized areas of low pressure, affecting regions from 300 to 400 kilometers of their centers. Wind speeds diminish with distance, and rain bands weaken as they spread. At 500 miles distance, a typhoon's influence should be negligible. Perhaps some high clouds, maybe a slight breeze, nothing that would trigger emergency protocols in distant cities. For 140 years, the Hong Kong Observatory had operated on these assumptions. Their warning systems, refined through centuries of Pacific storms, issued alerts when typhoons entered within 800 kilometers of the territory. Never in recorded history had they activated emergency protocols for a storm centered in another country's waters. The physics simply did not support it. The Philippines sits directly on the Western Pacific Typhoon Highway and endures an average of 20 major storms each year. It is a nation built around typhoon survival, with infrastructure and emergency systems designed for regular atmospheric assault. In 2025 alone, Feng Wong became the 21st named storm to impact the archipelago, above average but not unprecedented. What was unprecedented was what happened next. As Feng Wong reached Super Typhoon intensity, something extraordinary began occurring in the atmosphere above the Western Pacific. The storm's massive size and extreme low pressure, dropping to 943 hectopascals at its center, created what Dr. Liu Wei of the Atmospheric Physics Institute later described as the first documented case of tropospheric resonance from a tropical cyclone. The storm was not just moving across the ocean, it was vibrating the entire atmospheric column above it. Like a massive drum struck by a cosmic hammer, Feng Wong began generating standing waves in the atmosphere, pressure oscillations that propagated outward at near the speed of sound. November 9th, 9:10 p.m. local time. Phung Wong slammed into Aurora province in the northeastern Philippines with sustained winds of 185 kilometers per hour and gusts reaching 230 kilometers per hour. The storm followed almost exactly the path of destruction left by Typhoon Kalmegi just days earlier, systematically demolishing infrastructure already weakened by the previous disaster. But as Phung Wong ravaged the Philippines, something unprecedented was happening 500 miles to the northwest. Atmospheric pressure sensors across Hong Kong began detecting anomalies, subtle at first, barely distinguishable from normal barometric variation. The readings showed oscillations with a distinct pattern, 15 to 20 hectopascal variations occurring at regular intervals. Dr. Sarah Chen of the Hong Kong Meteorological Research Division was monitoring the data when the pattern became unmistakable. She said we were seeing standing wave signatures in our atmospheric pressure readings. It was like watching ripples from a stone thrown in a pond, except the pond was the entire atmosphere, and the stone was a 1,800 kilometers wide typhoon. At 12:20 p.m. Hong Kong time on November 10th, the Hong Kong Observatory made history. For the first time in its 140 years of existence, it issued a standby signal number 1 for a typhoon that was still centered 650 kilometers away and was not even moving toward Hong Kong. The storm was tracking north toward Taiwan, yet atmospheric data demanded action. The announcement created confusion across the territory. Citizens receiving typhoon warnings looked outside to see partly cloudy skies and moderate winds. Social media erupted with questions. How could there be a typhoon warning with no typhoon in sight? Had the observatory made a mistake? 2 hours later, at 2 p.m, Macau followed suit, issuing its own signal number 1 warning. Then came alerts from China's Fujian and Guangdong provinces. A chain reaction of emergency protocols activated across the region, all triggered by a storm that would never come within 400 kilometers of any of these territories. What scientists discovered in the data would revolutionize understanding of megastorm physics. Phung Wong had grown so large and powerful that it was creating what researchers now term atmospheric standing waves, stable oscillations in air pressure that persist and propagate far beyond the storm itself. The mechanism works like this. As the typhoon's massive low-pressure center moves across the ocean, it creates a depression in the atmosphere above it. Air rushes in to fill this void, but the storm's rotation and the Earth's Coriolis effect create a complex spiral pattern. When a storm reaches Phung Wong's size, 1,800 kilometers across, this spiral begins to resonate with natural atmospheric frequencies. Dr. James Morrison from the Atmospheric Dynamics Laboratory explained, "Imagine dropping a boulder in a pond, but the pond is the entire atmosphere. The waves do not just ripple outward, they reflect off atmospheric layers and create standing wave patterns that can persist for hours and travel thousands of kilometers. The pressure waves detected in Hong Kong were traveling at approximately 300 meters per second, close to the speed of sound in air. These were not wind or rain, they were pure pressure oscillations, invisible but measurable, creating what scientists call barotropic disturbances in the atmosphere. Pressure changes on this scale have real-world effects. The implications sent shockwaves through the meteorological community. If megastorms could influence weather systems 500 miles away through atmospheric resonance, then traditional concepts of storm safety zones were obsolete. Cities previously considered safe from direct typhoon impact might experience significant atmospheric disturbances, pressure changes that could affect everything from aviation to human health. Hong Kong's financial markets, hypersensitive to any disruption, immediately reacted to the unprecedented warnings. The Hang Seng Index dipped as confusion spread about the nature of the threat. Airlines began adjusting flight paths to avoid potential atmospheric turbulence. Shipping companies rerouted vessels despite calm seas. The economic impact extended beyond immediate market reactions. Insurance companies scrambled to understand whether atmospheric resonance effects would be covered under typhoon policies. International businesses with operations across the Pacific began reassessing their emergency protocols. If storms could now threaten cities 500 miles away, risk calculations for the entire region required recalibration. Meanwhile, the atmospheric disturbances continued. Ocean sensors detected unusual wave patterns in the South China Sea, not storm surge, but the long-period oscillations generated by atmospheric pressure variations. These phantom waves travelled independently of wind, creating hazardous conditions for shipping despite relatively calm weather. As data poured in from sensors across the Pacific, scientists identified the specific conditions that enabled Feng Wang's long-distance influence. The storm's exceptional size was crucial. At 1,800 kilometers in diameter, it approached what researchers call the resonance threshold, where typhoon-generated pressure waves can couple with natural atmospheric oscillation modes. Ocean temperature played a critical role. The abnormally warm waters that fueled Feng Wang's growth also increased atmospheric moisture content, changing the density and wave propagation characteristics of the air itself. Climate models suggested that as ocean temperatures continue rising, more storms will reach the size necessary for atmospheric resonance. Dr. Morrison's team calculated that a storm needs to exceed approximately 1,500 kilometers in diameter to generate significant standing waves. Below this threshold, pressure disturbances dissipate too quickly to create long-range effects. Above it, the atmosphere itself becomes a transmission medium for storm influence. The discovery of megastorm resonance revealed vulnerabilities in cities throughout the Pacific Rim. Tokyo, despite being over 2,000 kilometers from typical typhoon formation zones, could experience atmospheric disturbances from sufficiently large storms. Manila, Taipei, Seoul, all major population centers, fell within potential resonance zones of future megatyphoons. The Atlantic basin showed similar vulnerability patterns. Climate models suggested that as hurricanes grow larger and more powerful, cities like Miami could experience atmospheric effects from storms centered near Venezuela. London might detect pressure waves from particularly large hurricanes in the mid-Atlantic. The Indian Ocean presented perhaps the most concerning scenarios. Cyclones in the Bay of Bengal, already among the deadliest storms on Earth, showed increasing size trends that could soon cross the resonance threshold. Cities from Mumbai to Bangkok could face atmospheric disturbances from storms thousands of kilometers away. Traditional weather forecasting relies on satellite imagery and surface observations to track storms. Detecting atmospheric resonance requires a three-dimensional monitoring network capable of measuring pressure oscillations throughout the atmospheric column. Only the most advanced weather services possessed such capabilities. The Hong Kong Observatory's detection of Feng Wang's resonance effects relied on a network of ground-based barometric sensors, atmospheric soundings, and satellite-based pressure measurements. Real-time analysis using artificial intelligence identified the standing wave patterns that human observers might have missed. Dr. Chen's team developed new algorithms specifically designed to detect resonance signatures in atmospheric data. These systems could identify the characteristic frequency patterns of megastorm resonance, distinguishing them from normal weather variations. The technology would prove crucial for future early warning systems. The events of November 10th exposed a critical gap in global weather preparedness. Emergency protocols worldwide assumed storms posed threats only within traditional danger zones. If atmospheric resonance could extend storm influence to 500 miles or beyond, entire warning systems required overhaul. International coordination became essential. A megastorm forming in one nation's waters could trigger atmospheric effects across multiple countries. The World Meteorological Organization convened emergency sessions to develop new protocols for resonance warnings. Cross-border data sharing, previously limited, became critical for public safety. Infrastructure vulnerability assessments needed updating. Buildings designed to withstand local weather might face unexpected stresses from atmospheric pressure oscillations. Aviation routes required recalculation to avoid invisible turbulence zones. Even human health protocols needed revision. Rapid pressure changes could affect sensitive populations far from any storm. As climate change drives ocean temperatures higher, the conditions that created Feng Wang become increasingly common. Warmer seas not only fuel larger storms, they also modify atmospheric characteristics in ways that enhance resonance. What seemed impossible in 2025 may become routine by 2035. Dr. Wei's projections suggested that by 2030, the Western Pacific could see 3 to 5 megastorms annually capable of generating atmospheric resonance. By 2040, that number could double. The Atlantic Basin, traditionally producing smaller storms than the Pacific, showed trends toward larger, more resonance-capable hurricanes. The implications extend beyond immediate storm threats. Atmospheric resonance could alter regional weather patterns, affecting precipitation, temperature, and wind patterns hundreds of miles from storm centers. Agriculture, water resources, and energy systems designed for historical weather patterns might face unprecedented challenges. Hong Kong's emergency alert for a Philippine storm was not a malfunction. It was a glimpse of humanity's atmospheric future. As typhoons evolve into planetary-scale atmospheric events, the concept of safe distance from storms has become obsolete. The atmosphere itself has become a medium for transmitting storm influence across vast distances. Satellite data from late November revealed more megastorms forming across the Pacific. Each showed the characteristic size and intensity profiles that could trigger atmospheric resonance. Weather services worldwide watched nervously, knowing their cities might soon experience the phantom influence of storms they would never see. The age of localized weather has ended. In our interconnected atmosphere, a super typhoon forming near Guam can trigger emergency protocols in Shanghai. A mega hurricane in the Caribbean might disturb atmospheric conditions in West Africa. The butterfly effect has evolved into the typhoon effect, where massive storms create planetary-scale atmospheric consequences. Feng Wang proved that when storms grow large enough, they do not just move through the atmosphere, they play it like a massive instrument, sending pressure waves across thousands of miles of sky. And as Earth's oceans continue warming, these atmospheric concerts will become increasingly common, affecting cities that once considered themselves safely beyond the reach of tropical cyclones. Because in our new atmospheric reality, nowhere is truly beyond a megastorm's reach. The invisible waves propagating through our sky carry storm influence to places that will never see a single raindrop from the typhoon itself. Distance no longer guarantees safety when the medium of transmission is the air we breathe. And Feng Wang? It was just the opening act in Earth's new atmospheric symphony, one where megastorms conduct pressure waves across entire ocean basins, and cities 500 miles away dance to rhythms they cannot see but can no longer ignore. Subscribe to Earth Attacks for urgent updates on atmospheric phenomena reshaping our connected world. When megastorms broadcast their presence across thousands of miles, early warning becomes survival.